Oh my goodness, you have no idea what I received from the post office today.
If it's not a social life, I'm not going to be impressed.
Rude, but it's even better than that. Look at this.
Am I supposed to be impressed?
Well, you don't have to be, but look, it's Moxxie from Hell. Hell of a boss. Isn't he just adorable?
I don't know how to react here. This is one of the most cursed things you've shown me.
Don't say that about him. He's so pure, he's so gentle.
I'm gonna be real with you. He's from a Chinese sweatshop, aka Hell. You're delusional.
Oh, come on. Can't I have just one indicator of my media consumption? And plus, this isn't any normal Moxxie. I got a special note in the package that this one talks.
Cheap packages don't come with special notes. Show me.
Alright, my dearest Moxxie, can you please say something?
I bet you want to force your face in between my boy cheeks and worship them so passionately.
Halt.
You're honestly
Halt. Salutations, Homo sapiens. Well, it seems that I have already discussed Hazbin Hotel on my humble channel page, and that video was especially topical, so it's about time that I also give some attention to its sister show, Hell of a Boss. If you've heard of the former, there is absolutely no way that you haven't also been made aware of the latter. Think of it as the fully independent version of Hazbin. Its pilot hit the scene only a month after the Hazbin pilot on November 25th, 2019, and its first official episode graced YouTube on Halloween of 2020. It has stayed on YouTube since then, and is currently nearing the end of its second season. Yes, despite being the spin-off to the main series, Hazbin Hotel, it has far more content to show for it than that main series. Of course, this is due to Hazbin being picked up by an actual network, but I suppose it does say a thing or two about the priorities of Miss Vivziepop. Similar to my video regarding Husker Dust, I don't plan on discussing my thoughts on the entire series in this video. There are certainly a select few episodes which I take issue with, but I'd like to focus on characters again this time around. After all, characters are the heart of any series. If you don't like them, you may as well drop the show right there, don't you think? Headlining the immediate murder professionals is Blitzo.
The O is silent now.
Okay, I suppose it's Blitz then. Yeah, he's our protagonist. A lot of people like him, and just as many people don't. He's alright, but tends to be quite the insufferable bastard at times. I feel like he gets away with being awful, but then receives consequence whenever he's actually trying to be decent. Fortunately for us, Blitz is not the subject of this video. Instead, we will be focusing on his right-hand man, or right-hand imp in this context, Moxxie. He is the sir of the hour this time around, and you may call it foolish to care so much about a fictional character, but well, you're right. It is a tad bit unconventional to devote so much affection towards personalities who literally don't exist in our world, but it is something that many choose to do anyway, myself included. Moxxie is a character that gets a decent amount of respect from the general Hell of a fanbase, but I'd argue not enough. And in this video, I want to discuss why I have so much respect in my heart for a gentleman of his demeanor. So, why waste any more time? I'm sure that my plush is trembling with excitement for what I have to say about his actual representation. Right, Moxxie?
It's a plush demon toy. Stop acting like it's sentient.
Let me have this, okay? So, this dapper fellow with the devil's horns, what's his deal to begin with? It's challenging to get into this subject while also avoiding some of the, lore of Hell of a Boss as a whole, but I'll try to keep this brief. Moxxie is an imp, the lowest class of residents in the official hierarchy of Miss Pop's universe, for some reason, who is originally from which ring again? Was it Wrath or was it Greed? Well, that depends on which writer you ask. According to Miss Vivziepop herself and Mr. Brandon Rogers, Moxxie is from Wrath.
I was born here too. I have some fight in me.
But if you were to ask Mr. Adam Nalen, who officially joined the writing staff for the second season, he had decided to move the fellow to Greed. So I don't know what the hell is going on there, pun absolutely intended. Anyway, he was fathered by this piece of shit, whose name is Crimson, and an unnamed mother who had been slain early in Moxxie's life by the hands of, well, that same piece of shit. Gotta love trauma, huh? Crimson the shithead is the leader of a mafia family in Greed, and as Moxxie had participated in such shenanigans, he would end up meeting another piece of shit. Gosh, this poor fellow can't cut a break, can he? I don't want to talk about this pathetic waste of space any longer than I need to, so to cut this entire part of the story short, this hole gets into some ridiculous relationship with our good sir, and eventually causes him to be arrested, because some parts of hell have laws apparently. That doesn't absolutely defeat the purpose of the setting, does it? Does it? So he gets thrown in prison and meets the show's protagonist, the previously mentioned Blitz. They acquaint themselves, break out of prison, and I'm sure you know the rest from here. Enter the immediate murder professionals, and Moxxie meets his proper player 2 in the form of Millie. There you have it, an oversimplified explanation of Moxxie's origins. The same thing that I had said in the Husker Dust video applies here. As a matter of fact, I'll just let past me do the talking.
If you want to know more, then you should probably, I don't know, watch the series yourself. To be fair, you probably should have done that before clicking on this video, but nowadays, with the way the attention spans have been going, you just can't be sure.
Alright, fantastic. That's who this good sir is in universe, but that doesn't mean much in terms of his personality, does it? Why do I like Moxxie so much to the point where he's my favorite character in the Vivziepop universe? The only one I can say I own merchandise of. I'm sure that's the burning inquiry for all of you right now. Of course, as the gentleman I am, I will most certainly provide the answer to you all. Moxxie, Moxxie, Moxxie. Where do we start with you? Well, I'll start here. I'm not afraid to admit, as a heterosexual gentleman, when another sir is, well, cute. Moxxie, for as demonic as he and all of the characters in this universe are, is cute. Maybe not extremely cute, considering that, again, he's an imp, but come on. When he makes faces like this one, or this one, or this one, or... no, not that one. When he's being so sweet most of the time, how can you not find a kind fellow like that cute? On that note, I did use the word kind there, didn't I? Let's get into this a bit. Moxxie, for having gone through so much bullshit in his lifetime, may legitimately be the most gentle character in the entire show. That may not be a hard bar to cross, since this is hell, but regardless, yes, Moxxie is an assassin. His very occupation involves ending the lives of those on Earth who receive the death wish from a client, but he's the most compassionate killer I've ever met. The first official episode of the series is all about his reluctance to off a seemingly wholesome family despite it being a murder family, all for the seemingly arbitrary reason of, oh no, it's just a happy family living its happy life. Unfortunately for Moxxie, that doesn't really matter in this situation, but still. The fact he's seemingly the only member of the crew with this sort of compassion is astonishing for being in such an occupation. He takes the concept of doing good after evil pretty seriously, even after being mistreated and toyed with for most of his time prior to being hired. Being able to somehow maintain that level of generosity, honestly admirable. He's my spirit animal.
A human called me a possum. I am not a possum.
Minus the possum part, I can do without that. But in terms of just being a kind-hearted, humble gentleman who always attempts to address others with respect, that's exactly my aspiration. But not only is our good sir here respectful, he's also very, very loving. He's married to Millie, as I had mentioned previously, and I will conform with everyone else and agree that as her own character, Millie doesn't do too much to stand out, and save for a few recent additions, she's been known as a wasted character. I personally really like her regardless, for a variety of reasons. Sir, she's a married madam, you can't say those things about her, especially not in front of the audience. Shh! Back to the point! Moxxie proves to be a very affectionate husband to Millie, always cherishing her and showing appreciation for every little thing she does for him. It's by far the healthiest relationship in the entire Vivziepop universe, and for that, I greatly appreciate it. I'm so fortunate that there isn't any episode that I can say ruins it.
Look at Millard. Isn't he great?
Cease! Millie means the world and more to Moxxie, and he's sure to express that whenever possible. Most of the time, it's pretty wholesome. One of the ways he does this is through song. And there's another positive quality of his. Moxxie is a bit of a musician of some sorts, being able to play the guitar and sing decently well. Moxxie is voiced by one Sir Richard Horvitz, who has done plenty of other voices throughout his career, most significantly Invader Zim from the show of the same title. Sir Horvitz does a wonderful job at the character, and despite Moxxie's voice being a bit unorthodox, he can sing quite well.
You make my spirit sing. Yeah, you make me glad I live in hell.
I will mention that in Season 2's 10th episode, his voice sounds off.
Well, I hope so, sir. Business has actually hit a peak, and it would be disastrous to lose what we worked for now. Bad? Bad? This isn't bad. This is just a financial apocalypse!
He sounds a bit higher pitched and a bit of his grit is absent in my ears. I can't tell if that's Horvitz losing his voice, which is most definitely not a fault of his own, or if the team changed his voice direction, inflating his voice, like how characters in other cartoons tend to have higher pitched voices over the years. A bit of a non sequitur, I'll admit, so back to Moxxie himself. Yet another fun quality about our kind fellow is his rationale. In the pilot especially, which is unfortunately not canon anymore, Moxxie acts as the voice of reason in the company, prepared to call his boss out on the utter nonsense that he sometimes engages in. This aspect of his character is still prevalent in the series proper, and Moxxie still appears as the most level-headed, but it's toned down, and he's more emotional than in his original depiction. In my humble opinion, the Moxxie in the pilot was a bit better, seeing as he doubted himself a bit less than he does currently, though his emotional side becoming more commonly shown does make him sympathetic in some regard. Of course, we enjoy a gentleman who isn't afraid to express his feelings, but sometimes I can't help but think he's a little weak.
I believe we should expand on that point a little bit. Moxxie, you don't mind me discussing a little bit about your weaknesses, do you?
Do you think that's mature? Do you think that's fucking funny? Do you think you're gonna have followers for that?
Well, no, I don't find it comical or anything,
He is dead.
I know that, Moxxie. I know. Wait, you're not supposed to know that!
As much as I would enjoy calling Moxxie a flawlessly written character, it's simply an impossible statement to make. Perfection doesn't exist in this world, and nor does it exist in the character of our kind fellow here. Moxxie has one glaring flaw in most of his appearances, and one that isn't really even his fault. The episodes often choose to portray him as the weak one, the softie, the least qualified with an IMP. Blitz is the leader and remorseless slayer, Millie is the strongest and most violent bloodbath monster, and Luna is the one that they added solely for the fans to drool over because she hardly does a damn thing for the company or even the plot. But Moxxie, sometimes he's ridiculed for even existing.
Can't you finally do something about how fat you are?
I'm not.
Madam, he's a stick, and a specimen built the way that you are has no right to call out. Look, Moxxie being emotional and having the most apparent weaknesses isn't a negative choice by itself. After all, it only makes him more lovable and sympathetic to the common viewer. However, when your series seems to care about character development, especially in the more recent episodes, having one character deal with the same struggles time after time again is poor execution. Moxxie is challenged by and overcomes his inferiority complex in Murder Family, Harvest Moon, Truth Seekers, Aussies to some extent, X's and Oo's, and Unhappy Campers. That's 5, debatably 6 episodes where the central conflict is exactly the same. Yes, some of those episodes have excuses for putting a unique spin on it, but then there are others where it genuinely feels like Moxxie makes progress in one episode and then immediately regresses back in the next. One of my biggest complaints with Hell of a Boss as a series is how it can't tell if it wants to be episodic, where each episode exists in a vacuum and doesn't connect to the following ones, or serialized, where the entire series is attempting to tell a large story and each episode is a small portion of it. The confusion here leads them to tell the same Moxxie plot multiple times, and while I'll continue to sympathize with him, I really wish that he could do something else. The show likes to portray him as the weakling, but we see what the sir is truly able to accomplish. Episodes such as the aforementioned Truth Seekers and the yet-to-be-mentioned Western Energy and Full Moon clearly showcase that Moxxie is, in fact, a very talented fighter when not being brought down by anything. This is the Moxxie we want more of, not the pussy baby Moxxie that they like to showcase more often. I feel like at this point we've seen enough of Moxxie's lowest points that we can focus mostly on his strength and strategic planning, his voice of reason, and all of the other great things he's able to accomplish. Now that Blitz seems to be the character going through the most emotional turmoil, we no longer need Moxxie to be the metaphorical punching bag of the series. Not every show needs a token torture victim, so to speak, and I want Miss Pop to realize that. Bullying Moxxie for seemingly meaningless crud is not funny, and in my view, never will be funny. Even those who do find it comedic are likely tired of it at this point. This is Moxxie's greatest flaw. He is not that vulnerable. Again, for having gone through literal hell in a place that is hell, he is one hell of a fighter, and is so freakishly nice to others that you'd think he's really a fallen angel. Thank you and good night. Moxxie is a character that I hardly find anyone hating, and for good reason. It's almost impossible to hate someone of his kind, yet he's nobody's favorite character either. Homo sapiens will always prefer a character such as Blitz, or Stolas, or Fizzarali, or Eye Candy, because one always stands out above a character like Moxxie. I enjoy most of the cast too, Fizzarali gets a special mention from me, but I always come back to Moxxie because of just how admirable his story is. He earns a very respectable 11 out of 13 rating from me. Again, minus the killing aspect, he is a representation of the type of gentleman I aspire to be myself, and how cordial and caring he usually is. I will not dare call him precious though, because I never infantilize him or treat him like he's someone who deserves protection. He is a character who is strong on his own merits and can fend for himself, even when the writers make it very difficult for him to do so, and I wish that his stronger and rational sides became the forefront of his character. I suppose you can't have it all, can you? That's the lesson I've taken from following along with the Has-Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss episodes. It's very difficult to get a perfect product. Season 2 of Hell of a Boss is a huge mixed bag in my eyes, and as it reaches its conclusion, I really do hope that the following season makes amends to Moxxie and the other issues which currently plague the show, particularly how focused it is on Stolas. It's become so far removed from the original pilot pitch that sometimes I can't help but feel like I'm watching Televisa. Yep, that Televisa. Regardless of the direction the team chooses to take in the future, however, I will always appreciate Moxxie's character and enjoy how relatable he is to me on a personal level. If I am able to enjoy that, then I have full faith and confidence that you will be able to enjoy yourselves.
You done?
Yes I am.
Listen, I've been waiting for you to finish about this dumb show for far too long.
Well, you don't have to disrespect it like that. Don't you understand how much work goes into creating
Look, you've been obsessing about this plush toy demon that you've been clutching for the last 20 minutes. Does that not make you seem a little bit unhinged?
Well, it's a talking demon. His opinions are very valuable as well. As a matter of fact, why don't you go ahead and let him give the Homo sapiens their closing remark?
Fine, whatever.
Dearest Moxxie, how would you like to close off this video?
Unhappy Campers was awful. Absolutely terrible.
That's an interesting position. One that deserves a bit more elaboration. Perhaps another time.